Hey dudes, Sylvite Soltis here with another gearing guide for you all. A few months back, I created my first Get Geared Quick guide, focusing mainly on healing priests in Phase 1 of WoW Classic. And while that guide was very well received, there were many errors that have become apparent since, as well as several other ways in which I would like to improve it. So, here we are. I'm proud to present my new and very much improved Phase 1 Healing Priest Gearing Guide. Now with only Phase 1 items, additional quest rewards, and more. I hope you find it useful. If you do, remember to subscribe and leave a comment letting me know. But let's get right into it. Tip number 1. Rune Cloth. While still leveling, try to snag bits of the Rune Cloth set, as they have decent intellect and spirit, and will help significantly in the dungeons when you get to them. The items can start being collected as early as level 46, so it's definitely a worthwhile investment. If you're a tailor, this should be fairly easy, assuming you actually worked on your profession. You should also begin crafting Mooncloth, which has a 4-day cooldown, as soon as possible on the side, so that you can either craft Mooncloth gear upgrades, or, even better, the True Faith vestments. But if you're not a tailor, don't sweat it. There's lots of other gear you can get. Tip number 2. Do these quests as soon as possible. Sometimes it seems that people forget how awesome quests can be as a source of gear in Classic. As a priest, there are several awesome quest rewards that you can make great use of. A neck, a ring, an offhand, a trinket, and a wand to name a few. Needless to say, these quest chains aren't easy, but many of them can be knocked out on your way to 60. Or at the very least, you can get them started before then. First off, make sure to do the linking quest chain in Ungoro Crater, which ends in the quest It's Dangerous to Go Alone. This chain awards Spirit of Aquamentus, a very powerful offhand, which won't be replaced very easily in Phase 1. Next up, head to the Blasted Lands and complete the quest chain from the Fallen Hero of the Horde, which ends in Heroes of Old, in order to obtain a great mana per 5 trinket, Shard of Afrasa. Ideally, this trinket will be replaced soon enough, but in case you're unlucky with drops in the eventual dungeon runs, you'll be glad to have it. Head over to the Plaguelands and do Tyrian Fordring's quest chain, which ends in Dreams. This quest in particular awards your pre-raid best in slot ring, Fordring's Seal. This item is a must-have for raiding, so just get it done. You'll be glad you did. Also in the Plaguelands, you can complete the Battle of Darrowshire quest chain, which offers a great neck piece, the Arclight Talisman. Now this chain might be a little bit too difficult to complete in Phase 1, as it requires a raid if I'm not mistaken. But it's still a good idea to do, since there aren't many options for neck pieces in Phase 1 of WoW Classic. Finally, you should also consider completing the quest chains ending in Order Must Be Restored if you're Alliance, or the Scarlet Oracle Demetria if you're Horde. This is to obtain the powerful wand Storm Rager. While getting this range weapon might be difficult around the beginning of WoW Classic, it's probably worth it considering the general lack of good wands pre-raid. And all in all, it's a worthy goal to pursue in my opinion. And of course, no useful quest list would be complete without these two. Make sure you do the Molten Core and Onyxia Attunement quest chains. Though the gear rewards for priests might be lackluster compared to other classes, the simple fact of the matter is that these quests need to be done, and they will send you to the dungeons anyway, so you might as well work on them as soon as possible. Tip number 3. Run Blackrock Depths and Undead Stratholme. These two dungeons will basically be your new home between capping and raiding. BRD and Strat Undead have so many useful items for priests that it's next to impossible to avoid doing them, especially if you want to gear up as efficiently as possible. Starting with the former, you should run BRD as soon as groups will take you. You should be pretty much fine to full clear it by level 55, especially if you have another group member that can off-heal, or if you run dungeons with an organized group. There are several amazing items in BRD that you'll need to obtain if you're going to pull your weight in raids, but many of them come from bosses later on in the dungeon. In particular, Hands of the Exalted Herald, dropped by Princess Moira Bronzebeard, and the Hammer of Grace, in the chest after the Trial of 7 event, are must-haves for any priest, and pretty much every healer, to be honest. The earlier you can grab these items, the better off you'll be. Also, if you're Horde, remember to work on the quest chain, The Rise of the Machines, in the Badlands before running this dungeon too, as you'll be able to get an awesome cloak, the Raincaster Drape, which won't be replaced for a long time. To sum it up and keep it all in one place, here is a list of all of the drops that you can aim for in BRD. Notice that there are things for every item slot except neck and ranged, although some of the items are admittedly not that great. For your headpiece, you can get the Chief Architect's monocle from Phineas Darkfire. For shoulders, you can get the Kentic Amiss from High Interrogator Gerstan, and these are likely the best shoulders you'll get pre-raid. For your back, you can get the Spritecaster Cape from Houndmaster Grebmar, which has 14 healing on it. For your chest, you can get the Robes of the Royal Crown from Emperor Dagran Tharasan, which also has plus 18 damage and healing. For wrists, it's possible to obtain a good Flameweave Cuff from Lord Incendius, but these have a random enchant, so it might not work out. For hands, there are two options here: the Silkweb Gloves from Hedron the Creeper in the arena, which has 3 mana per 5, or the item you really want to get, Hands of the Exalted Herald from Princess Moira Bronzebeard, with a whopping 33 plus healing. For your waist, you could try to get the Banthok Sash from Ukthor the Breaker in the arena, which has 12 plus damage and healing, but it's really a caster DPS item, so don't steal it from your mages. For legs, you can go for the Senior Designer's Pantaloons from Phineas Darkfire, which have a whopping plus 40 healing and are the best possible pants in Phase 1 before raiding. You could also get the Haunting Spectre Leggings from the Trial of 7, but this has no plus healing on it. For your feet, you're going to want to aim for the Omnicast Boots from Golem Lord Argolmach because of the plus 22 healing and damage. There are also the High Priestess Boots from Princess Moira Bronzebeard, but these are pretty much awful. For finger slots, the only option here is the Cyclopean Band from Ukthor the Breaker in the arena, and this is pretty bad because of the strength, but it does have plus 9 damage and healing, so if you get it, it's something. For trinkets, there is Second Wind from Golem Lord Argolmach, which has plus 22 healing and is a must-have for any priest, and Burst of Knowledge from Ambassador Flamelash with plus 12 damage and healing. For your weapons, there are 3 options: the Kindling Stave from Pyromancer Lorgraine, which is probably the worst option in the dungeon, the Hammer of Grace from the Trial of 7, with plus 31 healing, is pretty much pre-raid best in slot, but there's also the Guiding Stave of Wisdom from Emperor Dagran Tharasan, which has a whopping plus 53 healing on it. For offhands, you could get the Enthralled Sphere from High Interrogator Gerstan in the beginning of the dungeon, but what you'll really want to try and get is Tharasan's Royal Scepter from Emperor Dagran Tharasan. However, if you did go and get the Spirit of Aquamentus before this, you probably don't need to worry too much about an offhand. Moving on, the other dungeon you'll definitely want to run is Undead Stratholme. The reason for this is not necessarily the quantity of drops, although there are plenty there, but rather the quality of one item in particular, Robes of the Exalted, as well as the relative speed in which this dungeon can be completed compared to others. Before heading over there, though, make sure to pick up the quest Houses of the Holy from Light's Hope Chapel in order to get the item Crown of the Penitent, a decent green helm with 6 mana per 5. Including that helm, there are 11 items that you could potentially get here at launch, making it by far one of the most lucrative dungeons you can run as a priest. As usual, here's a list of all of the items that drop in this dungeon. For shoulders, you could get the Soulstealer Mantle from Rammstein the Gorger, which have no plus healing or mana per 5, but there's something. For a cloak, you could try to get the Royal Tribunal Cloak from Magistrate Barthalos, but hopefully you'll have better by this point. For your chest, you'll want to get Robes of the Exalted from Baron Rivendare, which have a whopping 68 plus healing on them, and are definitely pre-raid best in slot for anyone not trying to get the True Faith vestments. For your waist, it's possible to get the Dreadmist belt from trash mobs in the dungeon, but you might be able to just find something on the auction house, to be honest. For legs, there are 3 options, and all of them drop from Baron Rivendare: the Devout Skirt, part of the Priest's Tier 0 set, the Dreadmist leggings, and the Magister's leggings, which are for the Warlock and Mage Tier 0 sets respectively. None of these items have plus healing or mana per 5, but there's something. For your feet, you could get the Dreadmist sandals from Baroness Anasteri, or the Devout sandals from Maleki the Pallid, again from the Warlock and Priest Tier 0 sets respectively. Finally, for your finger slot, you can pick up the Seal of Rivendare from Baron Rivendare, which isn't great, but it's something. As you can probably see, it's a really good idea to start running Strat Undead as soon as possible. I should also mention that there are some very good items in Live Stratholme, though doing a full run of both sections can be very time consuming. If you have the time and desire though, you could consider doing that as well, especially if you want to craft the True Faith vestments. In summary, do Blackrock Depths and Stratholme Undead as much as possible until you've obtained Hands of the Exalted Herald, the Hammer of Grace, and Robes of the Exalted. Really, these items are the ones with the most raw plus healing, and will thus be one of your greatest assets as a fresh level 60 priest. Once you've gotten those items, and any other lucky drops along the way, you can start filling gaps. However, I highly advise holding off on filling gaps before getting those items, as there are so many good items that you can obtain in these 2 dungeons alone. Tip number 4. Fill in the blanks when your dungeons and quests are all finished. If you've gotten the best items from quests, Stratholme Undead and BRD, head to the auction house, run some other dungeons, or just say screw it and go raid. If you're a tailor and want to use that mooncloth, do it. You should be pretty much good to go by this point, so long as your tanks are geared well enough too. I've compiled a list of all of the appropriate dungeon drops for priests over on my blog, so if you want to see what drops in Scholomance, LBRS, or UBRS, head over there and check that out too. I'm sure you'll find it useful. Congratulations on getting your priest to 60, and good luck with the gearing process. Obviously, there are tons of other items that you could get in Phase 1, but for any of you out there that wish to get the most bang for your buck in dungeon spamming early on in Classic, I think these tips should fit the bill just fine. Just remember to do the quests, keep calm, and run more Stratholme and BRD. If I missed anything, or if you thought that this guide was useful, let me know by leaving a comment down below. It's because of feedback from everyone watching the last video that I was able to make this guide even better than ever, and just in time for Classic's launch. If you liked this guide, or found it useful, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as well as the bell for notifications when new content is released. I'm constantly working on guides for different classes and roles, so there's a good chance that you'll see something applicable for you no matter what class you're playing. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter for updates when new content is released as well, and check out my blog over on Blogspot where I keep all of these guides up in written form all of the time for your convenience. Finally, if you'd like to help me make more content like this in the future, consider becoming a patron over on Patreon. But anyway, that's it for now. Good luck again, and as always, take it easy, guys.